and then we're going to go to 428. For the listening public, thank you for rejoining us and not finding something else to do with your evening. I'm going to offer a motion to table item number 2018-193, cost-sharing agreement between Lisbon and Sabatis. That's a key piece that was actually left out of the last dialogue by design. I need a second for that, please.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Now you, Twyla. Next item.
All right. Next item is the public hearing for the dangerous building at 428 Ridge Road.
Same script? Oh, that one's less convoluted.
Yes, it is.
All right. We are meeting this evening to conduct a hearing to determine whether the structure at 428 Lisbon Road is a nuisance or dangerous building within the meaning of the applicable state statute found at 17 MRS 2851 and succeeding statutes. If we determine that the structure is a nuisance or dangerous building, we will then determine what actions the property owner must take. Under 17 MRS 2851, a structure or any part thereof is a nuisance or a dangerous building if it is structurally unsafe, unstable, unsanitary, constitutes a fire hazard, is unsuitable for or improper for the use or occupancy for which it is put, constitutes a hazard to health and safety because of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, obsolescence, abandonment, or is otherwise dangerous to life or property. This is the standard that we'll use to decide whether the structure is a nuisance or dangerous building. Before we start, I have a question of all town council members. 428 Ridge Road is owned by Ray Balia. Does any council member know the property owner, have knowledge about this matter? That means you could not fairly and impartially hear the facts and decide the matter based on the evidence presented at this hearing. Let the records show that nobody has any reason not to proceed. Nope. Next, I would ask any representative for 4028 Lisbon Road, Ridge Road, or a party in interest who is present tonight, introduce yourself, including identifying your name, address, and position. Have a seat, sir, and please.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, actually I do own the property. And as far as the building goes...
State your name, sir.
I'm Ray Bellier.
There you go.
Okay.
I own 428 Ridge Road.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not going to argue that the place isn't in dire shape. Don't argue that at all. I am, however, in the process of taking it down, have been for a while. I've got the videos here and approximately, pictures of the property. I also have documentation as to where I've had any and all hazardous material removed from the property. Just the videos in themselves, the pictures in themselves, to show the amount of work that has been put into it. I had to take and clear this property out in order to even begin tearing the house down to have room to start separating for recyclables, burnable pictures out, and agreeably, it's ready to fall down.
Can I stop you right there for a second, sir? What I don't want you to get too far into the weeds associated with that. When we open up the public hearing, I want to make sure that that actually gets introduced properly into the record. So why don't we actually go...
My point is that I'm trying to tell you that the place is not sitting there idle. I've been working our butts off to take and get it into some kind of a decent shape. And this is in spite of, and I haven't complained about any of it at all. I can show you houses and things on my property from neighbors and stuff that have been actually tearing my house apart. I've never complained about it. You can't take and drive out into my road because of the overgrowth on their yards. I didn't complain about it. I went out there and cleaned it out. I took it back out and cleaned it out again because it's overgrown so bad. Fine. Eyesores, I've been up and down Route 9 plenty of times. there are ordinances where if you have a car lot, your cars have to be taken and enclosed so that they're not viewed to the public. I can go up right now and show you it's not car parts and all, but it's still a junkyard, per se. I've been in this town since '04. Well, actually, even longer than that. And never once have I seen any kind of barrier or anything, stopping this. And it in itself is, as you say, an eyesore. I've also seen other places where
Mr. Bowley, again, I really want to make sure, open up the public proceedings so anything that you're actually trying to express to us gets entered in evidence in the proper place. So I don't want to slow your roll. I didn't want to interrupt.
I'm just trying to get
yeah.
my point across.
Sure. But the proper place for most of what you're expressing would be in the public record associated with the evidence portion to weigh into our. Okay?
But by the same token, do know that the place is not abandoned. I've got the proof here that it is being developed.
What he was trying to say, and I'm sure you got that, it's just there's a formatting to it, so we want you to be able to enter everything you just talked about. We just need to get to that portion of the show.
Correct.
That's it. And so if you want to sit there while we get to that portion, that's something we can do.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate everything. I didn't want to interrupt, but I wanted on the record to be able to get.
I still
Sure.
got to drive to Portland tonight, so
Sure.
I'm anxious to get out as anybody.
All right. Now that the procedures that the town council will follow in conducting this hearing are as follows. 1, any document to be used in this proceeding will be ranked as an exhibit. I accept into evidence the code enforcement officers previously provided exhibits A through E for 428 Ridge Road. The presentation of evidence for the property will occur in the following order. The Town of Lisbon Code Enforcement Officer will present an opening statement and relevant evidence regarding why he believes the structure at issue is a nuisance or dangerous building and what remedy the council shall order. Following the completion of the code enforcement officer's presentation, any opposing party will have an opportunity to present an opening statement and any relevant evidence it wants to the town council to consider with regard to whether the structure at issue is a nuisance or dangerous building. If so, what remedy the council shall order. That's the section where you would actually come in, sir. So that's where I want to make sure what you are expressing to us gets heard.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. The code enforcement officer can then ask questions of any opposing party and any witnesses it presents. Any opposing party can then ask questions of the code enforcement officer and any witnesses. The code enforcement officer can then make additional comments regarding any opposing party's presentation. Any opposing party can then make additional comments regarding the presentation of the code enforcement officer. Town council members can then ask questions of the code enforcement officer, an opposing party, or a witness. Each side can make closing remarks of not more than 2 minutes each. Only parties for those hearings will be allowed to participate. Comments from the public will not be taken at this hearing. After all information has been presented, the record will be closed and the town council will deliberate and take a vote on whether the structure in question is a nuisance or dangerous building. If the council determines that the structure is a nuisance or dangerous building, it shall deliberate and take a vote on the appropriate order to remedy the situation. It is an administrative hearing and not a court proceeding or trial. Therefore, the formal main rules of evidence will not apply. As chairman of the council, I will determine the appropriateness and admissibility of evidence on the advice of the town attorney. Now I ask Dennis Douglas, the code enforcement officer, present the town council with information relevant to the matter.
Council. My name is Dennis Douglas, and I work for the town of Lisbon as code enforcement officer. My certifications are included in your packet as Exhibit E. 428 Ridge Road, Lisbon, is a single-family dwelling. Was deeded to Ray Bellier on May 14th of 2007.
Can I ask just a question?
Yes.
Does Mr. Bully have a copy of what we're actually looking at right here? can we get him one?
So yeah, we'll hand him right over a book if he needs one.
If he's been presented one, I want to just make sure the folk, I don't want to be referring to documents that he actually isn't going to see. He needs a book. If somebody could actually share on this side, that would be perfect. Thank you.
That and this isn't in the book, so you'll need that.
It's a rare portion.
I apologize for interrupting, Dennis.
So Ray, I'm going off from this free sheet that you have there. So 428 Ridge Road, Lisbon, is a single-family dwelling, was deeded to Ray Bellier on May 14th of 2007. The property is also identified on tax map R9, lot 13. The deed to Ray Bellier and copy of tax map R9 is in your packet as Exhibit A. On July 20th, 2018, a notice of this dangerous building hearing was recorded in the Androscoggin County Registry of Deeds in Book 9889, page 46, a copy of which is included in your packet as Exhibit B. August 28th of 2018, Ray Bellier was served with a notice of hearing, and that return of service is in your packet as Exhibit C. Under dangerous buildings, the Lisbon Fire Chief has ordered that firefighters and emergency medical technicians shall not enter the structure to respond to an emergency. B, present conditions of the structure are portrayed in the slideshow, which is included in your packet as Exhibit D, and which I will now review. If you go to Exhibit D, this again,
Follow along, right? I don't need it for Dennis
yeah,
again.
Exhibit D in your book.
The red tab.
Behind the red tab.
Second segment, there you go, way back there, yeah.
Thank you, counselors.
Exhibit D.
Following pictures I'll just review with you. This is in regards to 428 Ridge Road in Lisbon, Maine. The first slide you'll see is a representation of the exterior of the structure from the front roadside and from the side view of the main entry. The home is collapsing into the ground. The front wall of the home has sunk into the earth, which is escalating the rot and causing structural damage. The home is unsafe to enter. If you flip to the next slide, this picture represents the main entrance door and the condition of the exterior. The rear of the structure has collapsed, and the entryway floor has rotted away. The building is unsafe to enter and is considered dangerous. If you go to the third slide, this would be the other opposite side, the right-hand side facing from the road. These pictures show the home settling into the ground without proper support. The home is deteriorating quickly. The building structure is structurally unsafe.
I don't have that slide, but it's all right. I know what that side
There you go.
looks like.
There you go.
Yeah, and actually, that side doesn't look anything like that right now. This here is completely growing in because of my neighbors, which we're
let-
gonna talk
We'll give you, absolutely, you're gonna get that opportunity to talk about that.
Yep. Thank you.
But, yeah, okay.
So pictures were done primarily from the exterior to establish, I think, enough to show you what's happening with the property. It wasn't necessary to go inside anymore. We have the letter from fire and whatnot. I believe they responded to an incident a while back. Might have been a fire, I think, of that portion of the building.
No, I had a chimney fire.
A chimney fire, yeah. And that's when the reports came in that it wasn't safe to enter or to send EMS or emergency personnel into that structure. So. So conclusion, the structure is a dangerous building for the following reasons. The front wall of the structure is collapsing into the ground, which is escalating rot and causing structural damage, making the structure unsafe to enter, constituting a severe hazard to health and safety. The rear portion of the structure has collapsed already. Windows are missing panes, and the exterior door is missing a panel. The siding has been removed, leaving tar paper remnants and exposed untreated wood. Fascia board and roof sheathing are rotted and likely structurally unstable. The exterior of the structure is not maintained, and the entryway floor is rotted away, making the structure unsafe to enter. So there's my findings on the dangerous building.
All right, Mr. Bowie. I know I'm butchering your name. I apologize repeatedly. Okay. Everything that you presented before, we'll make sure that it actually gets received into the record, but by all means, you have information on your device there that you would like to present, and anything else that you would actually like to present on behalf of yourself, this is your opportunity to be able to do so.
All right. Oh, be nice. Anyway, what I have here are the documents from Waste Management. These documents show the removal of any and all of asbestos and any other hazardous material that was on the property. So anything that would be considered hazardous pretty much has been removed. I apologize for the delay, it's a little slow in coming. But actually what I'm drawing up are actually photos as he presented. These are photos that I've taken actually just today of this property. And I'm not going to argue that the place needs to be tore down. Actually, I'm here to tell you that my total intentions are to tear it down. I'm sorry I'm not doing it fast enough to suit everybody's fancy. I'm a poor man. I've worked by myself. I'm putting it together, these portable garages. Takes 3 people to put it together. 3 people putting it together right now. Me, myself, and I. It's fun. We can pass this around. You can simply slide it like this.
Mr. Foley, do you have an email that you can maybe provide that to us? Because one of the things I want to make sure of is that the images that are here that you're actually speaking to, that actually do get entered into the record, so the easiest way to be able...
I would love to be able to take and do that. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that I know how to do it. I'm not electronically and computer savvy. I'm sorry. This is about as best as I get.
Norm, you get your phone?
Yeah.
Snap some photos.
Please.
Can do.
Did you see that? We put him right to work. Norm's your guy.
Well, in essence,
Yes,
if
please.
you slide from here down this way, you're going to have all the pictures that I've taken today.
I'm going to go one step further. When we go out of here, I'll help him create what he needs to create, and I'll actually walk him through the process. If you don't mind, I'll gladly help you out.
Don't
Like,
mind a
create
bit.
him an email account.
Oh, that'd be great.
The point is, these pictures are going to show that the house is nowhere near the dire straits that it's being portrayed to
Sure.
be. I grant it, it's an eyesore. If anybody's got a complaint, it's my neighbor. I took pictures of this from his yard and his point of view. And yeah, if anybody's got something to complain about, that man does. However, I do have an agreement with him, and we're working together. I mean, he's going to come up with a little bit of property that he really needs. I've got more property than I need. Fine. I end up with a decent-looking home. He ends up with a little more space. Who's the hurt? Now, if that's not good enough for everybody, if I'm not moving fast enough for everybody, I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can. These videos, if you take the time to go through them all, right from what you see from the very start to what it is now, I'll tell you, there ain't but one way any of you people are going to take that place from me.
Okay, we need to go to this number of item C. Dennis, do you have any questions from Mr. Bollier that following the script right here?
Not necessarily. Ray and I have worked together in the past and whatnot, so I would agree he's making efforts that he can. within his means to try to address it. It's not, I've never faced an issue with Ray not understanding the situation and not trying to address it. In fact, I think we have permits for original attempt was to try to demo it and put a mobile home in there. That just hasn't happened yet. But so it's always been cooperative in trying to work on the situation. So it hasn't been adversarial in any way. So.
Sure. Do you have any questions, Mr. Boyer? Do you have any questions of
I think
Dennis?
I've pretty much said everything I can say. These photos, if you take the time to actually go through them and maybe even take and go back to some of what it looked like before and what it looks like now.
Okay.
Make your decision on that.
Any additional comments, Dennis?
I'm not going to
I'm
promise.
just going to follow up with you.
We're not quite there yet.
Okay.
I'm coming back to you guys in a second. Dennis, any other additional comments?
I mean, I want to make something clear too.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not promising that place is going to come down next month. I'm not promising that at all. And I'm not going to promise you that over the next 6 months it ain't going to be a hell of an eyesore in there. All I can say is don't look. I'm doing the best I can. It's a little 60-foot swath that people drive by. I tell people how to get there, and 9 times out of 10 they drive by it, drive down to the settlement, and have to turn around and come back because they drive right by it. It's that noticeable. And that's coming from the good side. I don't know. Take it from there, people.
Dennis, any other comments?
Nope.
Okay. Going back to the script, I now entertain questions from council to either party. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Mr. Crawford.
Are you living in this house now?
No, I'm not. I actually have an apartment in Portland that I live in. I've set up it's a 40-foot trailer. It's fully livable. It's got the heaters and the showers. I mean, it's got everything in it, but it's not intended, or my intention, to take and live it in our permanent place. I use it. It's my getaway.
So what your intention eventually is to knock it all down and put your...
Oh, eventually I want to knock everything all down. The septic system in itself, and I'll be talking with Dennis about this later on, but as far as I know, the septic system itself is grandfathered. And if I set this up properly, I'm hoping I'll be able to use it as a dumping station for the trailer.
I have a question.
Please, Cassie.
You said that you've been in the process of trying to clean this up or to demolish it. When did you have a time frame of when you were
Actually,
looking to have that completed?
I can't tell you on completed. I can tell you that I have talked to a number of people about getting together for a New Year's bonfire. And that's basically anything that I can take and dig out of that house that I'm not going to recycle or...
Are you talking about after you've taken down the building?
No, the whole house is coming down.
Right.
Everything's coming down. There's parts of that house... I mean, you can look through this video and you're going to see the rafters and many parts of this house are still recyclable. I can still use them for different projects around. Other parts of the house, it's trash. I mean, most of the stuff you see in the back, it's all burnable. It's 2x4s, boards.
Okay, so I guess my clarification, my question is, are you saying that you're looking to burn the building down?
I'm not going to burn the building down per se as a standing, no.
Okay.
Parts of the building are going to come down. I'll sort through the parts as I take it down. This I can take and reuse. This is going over in this spot. This is where I had to clean up the property. I had no place to put anything. Now I've got room to maneuver. I've got room to take and do something. This part of this, the rafters, they're still good. I can still take and use them for some other project. Whether it be an arbor that I make out back, or whether it be a platform for around the fire pits or whatever. They can be used for something. This part here, yeah, it's trash, it's no good. I can burn it. The shingles and stuff like that, no, you can't burn that stuff. You take that to the dump. I got pictures of what they have for insulation in here. The insulation is the ground up newspaper type of insulation. It's all biodegradable, you know. So I'm trying to do everything I can. That's all I can tell you. I'll try to do it in a respectable amount of time. I'm one person. Sorry.
How long have you been working on the process right now, Ms. Polly?
Actually, it's taken me pretty much this summer just to take and get the property straightened out. But again, if you take a look at the videos, you're going to see that there was a lot of work accomplished this summer.
Sure, but you've been working on it actively since this summer, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. That's why I asked.
I have
Dennis, how long have you been working with Mr. Bollier on the process and the topic of the house in general?
I wouldn't want to say without record how long it's been we did the permits, I guess, on the mobile home. It's
On the
been,
mobile home and all,
last
that's
year.
been a little better than a year now.
say, a little over a year maybe when we came in for a permit to demo the house and put a mobile home on the site.
That fell through for whatever reason. Or just,
Have to ask
yes,
Ray.
Right, but point is,
It hasn't happened.
change of direction,
They
is what I'm
wouldn't
saying.
take and deliver the mobile home to where I wanted it.
Okay.
If they'd have taken and delivered it where I wanted it, the deal would have gone through, but.
Okay.
I have another question
I-
for Dennis.
Fern first.
Thank you. The couple of things, and I heard you mention something about taking, just realize that as a council, we're not looking to take anybody's property or take anything away. I mean, we just have a responsibility of council people in town to actually look at, there's been a number of dangerous buildings that have been come up in town that we actually have to look at and just try to figure out for the safety of the community how we actually address them. And tonight, basically, we're here just to determine a couple of things, as you said earlier, is the idea is the building actually in bad enough shape that it may need to be torn down. Actually, it's a dangerous building. And I think even with your communications, you feel the same way. There's no question about it. The building needs to come down. And that's the first question we got to answer. The second question is as you heard earlier, we can take many different steps at that point. As long as we're actually working towards a conclusion, we as a council, we can do it. The idea of saying it's dangerous and needs to be demolished, I mean, that's only one opportunity that if we have no one in play, no one is actually working on it, that we could actually take that road if we feel that's the only route. But as a council, we can actually look at it, find out different ways to come to the conclusion. At the end of the day, that this is just a process for us to actually try to find an end result for this. And that end result to us sounds similar to what you were looking for. The end result for you to make the property better is the building be flattened so you can actually do something else there, pretty much. I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like. So again, I just want to clarify: no one's really trying to take anything away by any means, property, building, or anything. We just actually Dennis was tasked with a very difficult job over the last year. It was actually just looking at a lot of the buildings that people have concerns about, not people, but actually as a community, and try to address them and try to put a plan in place. And that's kind of what we're here tonight for. So, pretty much what you're describing that you're doing and that you feel is pretty much the same thing that actually is brought forward. So, I think we're more on the same page than that we're not. But I just want to kind of make you feel that, no one's here trying to be hostile, trying to take anything down. We're just trying to come to a conclusion of our conclusion. I mean, the results almost seem the same as what you're looking for. Just the time frame is more the question than it is the final result.
Again, it's not going to come down tomorrow.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's expecting
that.
that.
I'm not guarantee that even by next summer you're going to find it completely down. I'm sure by next summer there's going to be a considerable amount, or I'm hoping personally that there's a considerable amount of it down by then.
As we move forward, just understand, as a council, we can't leave it as an open-ended issue. So at some point in time, that we have to, if we determine that it's going to come down by the owner, we actually have to put some type of guidance on that, I believe. But again, that's one of those things where I think as the council discuss it, we're just actually going through a routine that we do on any particular structure that if the owner had the same concern. Some owners actually have the capability of tearing down their own place, and some don't. So that's unfortunately one of the things that we have to determine how we actually try to make that work. So we're not trying to take anything away, promise that. We're just trying to get to the same result that you do, and just trying to meet the legal requirements that we have, that's all.
Quick question for you, if you don't mind, sir.
Sorry,
Do
we
you
had to
inhabit?
Oh.
Oh,
I just jumped her once, so I'm not doing it twice
Oh,
now.
sorry, go ahead.
She's gonna be upset with me.
Just a question for you, Dennis, as far as looking at these pictures, how structurally sound do you feel this building is as far as being able to last during the winter months?
I mean, to answer that would be a guess, but I mean, the pictures show there's no proper foundation supporting the main structure, so that's, already 6, 8 inches in the ground. So that escalates damage pretty fast. The rear structure's already collapsed, and if I remember the reports from Chief Gallipo at the time, the floor structure inside wasn't safe to stand on in a lot of places. So, whether the building's still standing after this winter, my guess it would be. It's survived how many winters are. This just didn't happen this way. It's been deteriorating for quite some time now.
That's also in the video. You can see that the structure of the building in itself is sound. Granted that there are places, as he says, are actually decayed and rotted out. I mean, that's one of the reasons I moved out. I got my head sleeping outside on the ground and my feet inside on the house. Time to go. Okay. And I'm not arguing. Again, I'm not going to sit here and waste my time or your time arguing whether the house has to come down or this, that, or the other. I'm perfectly willing to tear the house down. But again, there's me, myself, and I here. All right?
Norman, sorry.
My question was, it's not inhabited right now, it's not gonna be inhabited through the winter months, correct?
It's not gonna ever be
No,
inhabited.
no, absolutely not.
Oh, it's fine, that's,
Oh, no.
I wanted that question answered. Councilor Colby here asked the other one I was gonna ask, was
That house has not
about,
been
will it
inhabited for 3 years.
I just wanted to see if it was gonna survive the winter as well, so,
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. I just wanted to see if it was gonna survive the winter, she asked that question, so I realized,
No,
yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind that that house will stand this winter and another one as well.
Okay.
There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about that.
Yes, please.
One other question, is the property secure right now, or someone was to, if some kids were able to go to the property right now, would they actually be able to go into a door? I mean, is it actually somewhat secure, or is it actually accessible?
The only part that's not secure and can't be secured is actually going to be the back end where it is falling down and everything.
So someone could actually go in and...
If this been happening another month or two down the road, you'd be seeing with the back end of this property that's all tore, that's falling down. You could see where that part is actually starting to be cleaned up and hauled out. But
No, my concern is just, since you're not living on the property, if there's some kids were to go, just, so the building would be secured, that's the biggest question, yeah.
The main part of the house has a padlock on the door and stuff like that. Locks are as good as the people that want to take and play with them. They'll keep an honest man out.
do you,
Councilor Brunel.
Pardon?
Bernie Aldine?
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
I just want to make a point that we've been having this discussion for quite some time, and Ray, is your name correct? Ray's made it very clear that he hasn't been in it for a couple of years. He's already made it that he's never going to live in it. He makes it it's going to come down. As far as I'm concerned, I've heard enough. I believe it is a dangerous building, and it should be deemed a dangerous building, period.
Any other
He's
questions?
already said it to us.
I do have a question.
Yes, please.
Do you maintain property insurance on it right now?
I have insurance on my trailer, and that's I'm hoping that it's covering this, and I'm going to double check and make sure that it is more like a homeowner
So
deal as opposed to a.
that building is uninsured right now, is that correct? From a liability standpoint, if I stepped on that property and got a nail in my foot?
In all honesty, I can't answer that truthfully because I don't know.
Okay.
It may or may not be. I know that I have the trailer and that stuff insured. Now, I'm hoping, and I'll double check on it to make sure, but when I did it, it was with the assumption that it was taking the house as well.
I just wanted to clarify that when you say trailer, it's an RV that's on site right now, a camper RV, right?
Well, it's a 40-foot Nash, yeah.
Camper RV unit, not a mobile home, but I just
Has
want to make
tires
sure.
on the tongue, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Any other questions of any party? I need a motion, and I have it right here.
Want me to read it? I move that the Lisbon Town Council approve the findings of fact, inclusions of law and order of demolition for 428 Ridge Road as proposed.
Need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Zero?
And from there, where are we, Twyla?
We could move into the next public hearing.
I'd mentioned to you, sir, that we could get together so you get those pictures. What we can do is, I know you want to get back to Portland. My information is on the website for Lisbon, but if you don't have that, you can call into the town office. They'll give you my phone number. I can give it to you before you leave if you'd like. That way we can get together.
If you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Please do. Give Norm a minute, and we're going to move right on. Thank you. Appreciate your time tonight. You still going over there? All right, I'll be over.
All set with me, Counsel?
Yes, dismiss. Thank you, sir. Yep, as soon as Norman gets you the contact information, you're as
Excuse me,
well
Ray?
as Ray.
Say, where do we stand?
We're basically, as it's been explained to you, we're doing what basically code enforcement and law provides us to do. We're basically making it, we have to put a title on it. We understand, Ray, that you're trying to demolish it yourself. We understand you've been trying. We understand all of that factors in. But we have a job to do as elected officials in our neighborhood to keep properties safe.
Mm-hmm.
Your property is not safe. And that's the decision that we've made. It's an unsafe property. And where does it go from here?
That's
Time.
what I'm asking you.
Time will tell. Where does it go from here? Are we going to force you to tear it down? Can we tear it down? You're paying your property taxes. You're doing this, that, and the other thing. We've deemed it as a bad piece of property or bad
Well, before
structure.
you go any further, that property's paid for 100%.
Yeah,
Don't
we
know what
understand.
that
We
was
understand. You can have a paid-for
My-
property, Ray, but if it's
My
not
taxes are
safe
paid
to the
up
people
till
around you,
September
Ray,
8th. My taxes
you
are
don't need
paid
to
up
argue
till
with us. We're telling you.
September
We're
next
just
year.
showing you the
Agreed.
facts, Ray.
Agreed, absolutely, sir.
We're not
Because
trying to
your
take it from you. We're
taxes
just-
are paid.
Correct. We're not trying to take it
Taxes
from
is
you.
paid.
You know as well as we do that it's an unsafe property.
Excuse me, Ray?
You've made it very clear to us.
Like I said, you want to take me off it.
We're not going to try to
Nobody's
take
trying to take it
you
from
off.
you. We
Excuse
just
me.
want you to keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
That's all.
That's it.
There you go.
Just
Thank you
continue
for
doing
doing
what
it.
you're
Call
doing.
when you have some time. We
One
get
foot in
together
front of
and
the
I'll
other, Ray.
get those pictures, okay?
Twyla, back to you.
All right, special entertainment permit for the Left Hand Club.
We already approved this.
To open a public hearing?
No, we get to the public hearing for that one.
We already approved it.
You're
did-
right.
we did in
that
the
out of
waiting.
order. We totally pooched that, so the public hearing is sailed, so move on.
Oh, so you closed that other public hearing for
Yes.
that, right?
Yes,
You took a motion already.
correct,
Okay.
correct. Thank you. Next item, Twyla.
Is the special entertainment permit for the Left Hand Club?
Anybody speaking on behalf of the Left Hand Club tonight? It's here, it's cursory, I'll entertain a motion if there are no questions.
Make the motion.
I need a second. I got my second right there with Councilor Crawford. All in favor?
7-0?
Next item.
All right, let's move to ordinances, and resolutions. Set the public hearing for Phase 2 Downtown Revitalization CDBG grant.
Your second item, sorry.
We got you early, now you'd come back, right? So you weren't going anywhere,
You
right?
didn't want me to go home. Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. As you know, Lisbon is fortunate to receive another CDBG grant for the Lisbon Village area of $300,000. As part of the Phase 2 of the grant process, I need to hold a public hearing. So I am asking Council if we could set a public hearing date on this project for the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Lisbon Village Streetscape Project on Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018, to meet the grant requirements.
Wow,
I know.
it's easy, can we just make a motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a motion. I heard a second.
Yeah, she's already seconded.
Did she get both of those? Fern and Cassie is what I heard. Is that correct?
All right, yeah,
All in favor?
7-0?
Thank you.
Before we have too much more damage done tonight,
Throw it in.
audience participation and response for agenda items, now that we've covered half of it. So if anybody has actually got something you'd like to specifically address, come on down.
If you want to come talk about the stuff already voted on.
Thanks for that, lead balloons. Seeing no one, we're moving on. Next to you, Twyla.
All right, order 2018-199, the diesel tank request.
I don't see him moving.
You're up, sir.
The tan thing threw me off too. Who wouldn't want to get a diesel tan? I mean, that's.
Right.
It's late in the summer, but I mean, hey, try anything once, I guess.
All right, as you know, we have a buried diesel tank in the yard, has a 30-year life expectancy, which is up. We had Smart & Sons come do an inspection to qualify for another 10-year extension, which pretty much gets us there. He has about $10,470 worth of work to do, which basically is putting a sump that will pump itself out if something happens and run it into our building and connect into the wired system, just so as an alarm that goes off. So that's what the work is for. Once we do that, we'd pass and get a 10-year extension for that system.
This was the piece of dialogue that we had through the budget process that we were hopeful to be able to hear going through this process. The other flip side of what Tom is expressing to you is the recommendation is to tap fund balance funds that have already been exhausted from the munis to be able to pay for this, to be able to put it behind us so we can move forward. That is my understanding, correct?
Use money that's already been appropriated for, so we're not taking.
Reallocating the money for this purpose to be able to not have it come out of the budget, correct?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
10 years, so does Smart have to come back in 5 years to review?
5 years, he'll start a yearly inspection process till the 10 years is up.
Any idea what that yearly inspection cost is after 5 years? I'm just wondering over that 5-year period. I knew that after 5 years I had to start doing it again.
Yeah, you know what, I can have that for the next.
Which isn't a big deal. I just want to make sure over the next 10 years we're not expending what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be an email too. huh?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
could
was
be
just
an
curious,
email.
not to put you on the spot. I
No,
just,
no problem.
just want to make sure that we feel comfortable with that over a 10-year period.
Right.
It's not the $10,000
Right.
or actually there is some ongoing cost, but even if they were to replace the tanks, we'd still actually have to do the inspections at certain intervals. But
That's a good point, because the 10-year on the fund balance funds is the fact is it's not a one-time expenditure and move on. It's something that actually has staying within the community, so we're getting 10 years worth of maintenance out of this, which is why the recommendation makes sense. Mr. Albert.
Yeah, so my piggyback, Fern's topic, here we go. We got 10 years we're going to get an extension for. That's fantastic. What's the replacement cost on this when we get to that in 10 years? I mean, that's a ballpark. I'm not going to hold you to it.
High speculation for 10 years from now.
Exactly.
I know.
As a matter of fact,
Let's just do it. Let's just do it right today. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I just put in our updated goals was to come up with a plan to maybe start saving up for that, because it's going to be
Substantial.
tens of thousands of dollars.
And that's where I was driving at. If we get a 10-year extension, let's not wait till year 9 and say, how are we going to pay for this?
Maybe be able to do a tank farm on top of the ground versus buried. That could save some stuff. So, I mean, there's some options. I
So
believe.
we're actively looking at plans that doesn't just say, let's put it in a big tank again. Maybe we get some other options.
We're not actively, but we will be, yes.
Okay, good. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Mayor, and this is for the diesel. I mean, where are we with the gasoline? I mean, is that actually that's above ground tank, right? With
Gasoline is
the containment.
above ground tank. Sumar's going to come and replace some panels and things on the existing pump we've had. He said the pumps we have are old, but they're awesome because they're like we get twice the volume you get out of a pump you'll get today. So he's going to change some of the controls and the panels and get it kind of up to speed for us, which is a few $1,000.
That's not included in this
No,
cost here.
this is separate.
Do we actually have?
We're taking that out of our operating.
So you do have operating costs to take care of that,
Yep.
and there's no, and being above ground containment, there's no actually life limit on that tank.
It's a double wall tank, so yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is, but they go quite a way.
So it's not a concern in the
We
near.
had a really bad mold issue. We're not sure where it's coming from, but the whole system was just coated with black mold. So once we get the panels off, we'll acid wash the area and try to figure out what's going on with it.
So basically, when it comes down to our gasoline and diesel storage, this cost here will actually take care of it until for the next 5 years, and after that, we'll just have a yearly review to make sure that it's actually staying.
Yep. years 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, they'll do an annual inspection.
Up to that 10-year, then regardless what we do after 10 years, it needs to be replaced, right? I mean, that's,
I'm not saying that, I guess there's, who knows? You
Yeah,
know, they may
okay.
come up with another
No
program, be
crystal
able to-
ball in
Right.
Tom's
Yeah.
pocket.
We might be able to extend it some more, I'm not sure.
just on, they give you a 10-year,
Oh, yeah,
10-year
they say that.
extension, but after 5 years, you get to re-inspect it, so I mean, it's really not a,
We could, I mean, it's a valid point. We could get caught at in year 6 and they say, you know what, we can't go 10 because.
5 or 6, you could develop a
So-
leak and start getting water in the system. And
We have 5 years basically right now to,
Yeah.
and that's
Figure it out.
still borrowed time possibly.
No guarantees.
For the listening public, it's still better than what we were looking at during the budget
For sure.
presentation.
It's 10K,
I
right?
think you had
Yeah.
a budget of 250,000 to replace it.
Right, so we'll do 10K for 10 years. I mean,
Right.
I'm no mathematician, but that ain't bad.
Right.
Cassie?
I'm ready to make a motion.
I saw the eyebrows, man. I weren't sure we were going with those.
I'll second that.
All right, I need a motion.
I'll make the
I
motion.
heard you did.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next item, Twyla? Thank you, sir.
You,
Order 2018-201, the voting credentials of 4 MMA delegates to the annual business meeting.
So this is an action item? Or is it just informational within the packet? That was my question.
I think somebody, if they're going to MMA, will need to have permission to vote at the annual meeting if you'd like them to vote.
Mark's going, we give him permission to speak.
Sure.
Go,
Mark, are you going?
Is there anyone else going? I don't know if there's one.
No, that was just an assumption
Are
on
you
my
talking
part,
about
but
the
you see what we
MMA?
just did there? I like that.
Is it the MMA convention?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Mark,
Are you
you've
going
been
to the MMA
voluntold.
convention?
Don't know.
He is our delegate in that regard, so. What was that?
We're going then.
Chris also. Chris has it, Chris also.
Chris would also like to go, so either, are they both in,
One's a voting and one would be an alternate.
so,
So if Mark doesn't show, Chris would be able to vote,
right.
or vice
That
versa.
would be, the motion would be. Thank you,
That's my
Cassie.
motion, if that's actually something we need to. actually
Cassie's your
vote
second. All in favor?
7-0.
Did you see how fluid that was? That
Thank
was-
you, Mark and Chris.
Yes, I'd like to do that. Thank you.
on. Would you have to register both then at that?
I will do both.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. Next item.
Okay. Order 2018-202, consolidation of voting districts 1 and 2.
Can you present that to us, Twyla? Or what you,
Yes, the town of Lisbon consolidated its polling locations and prior to the November 2016 presidential election. And with that, the state of Maine decided to consider consolidation efforts of our wards 1 and 2. So now Lisbon voters vote on the same ballot in November for the same House seat and the Senate seat. And this reduced the number of DS200 tabulating machines that we needed on Election Day because of the consolidation efforts. Our local ballots, however, are still different because we still have town council districts 1 and 2. And I wanted to bring to your attention that perhaps maybe the council would like to see if Lisbon voters are interested in consolidating districts so that council seats would all be at large. The street addresses in our code book underneath the charter requires that if you're running at large, that your street address be added to the ballot so people would still know where you live in town if you were all at large, if that was any concern. But all the ballots then at that point would be the same for District 1 and 2 voters if you decided to consolidate.
yes, sir.
Twyla, what's the procedure for that, if we were to go that route? Is that something that would have to go to election?
Yeah, you would have to put it on the ballot. The next one would be suggested is June, and 90 days before that ballot, you would have to hold another public hearing. And then the voters would decide whether they wanted to consolidate.
At what point do we have to make that? So you're saying it's actually too late
2
for the
months
November?
before. You still have time. Yeah.
Yeah, I really believe it should be on the November ballot because it's such a fundamental thing to the way we're organized and elected in this town. I think it needs to be a November election and not a June election when 30 people vote and half the people don't even know there's an election going on. So I would not support it on the June ballot, but I would support it. If we can't get it this November, put it, a year from November.
1 year from now, yeah.
My recommendation, if I could, would be if we're actually trying to deem this town as one Lisbon, that we actually get away from Ward 1, Ward 2, just actually have Lisbon and have council at large. And to me, the sooner we do it, if we're going to make the changes for this, the representation is going to be as one district, not two. So I'm not sure what language needs to be put onto the ballot at this November, what we need to do prior, but If we're gonna make that determination that we're gonna move quickly with making just one vote, I think we need to do it for the whole package. So that's my only opinion.
Do we,
I think Ward 1 and Ward 2 is something that would take a legislature and a legislative move, because that's a state.
That's a state?
That's the
So
state.
So the process is different. That needs to be done prior to, for going to vote, you mean?
Yeah, if you were going to ask the state to merge those two, I think it might be, I'm not sure how that happens.
But I don't think that's what this is.
This is just about.
No, this,
the question remains, we don't have the time to be able to have this on this November ballot, is what I clearly heard, correct?
No, right.
So at best, we're chose, if it, straw poll, is everybody receptive to the idea? What I'm hearing clearly is the fact is, I'm not hearing anybody opposed to, it's now one grade school, one voting place, all of this logic, so it's the next logical progression. I'm hearing discussion about timing of when that actually goes into play, is what I'm hearing.
Well, I mean, it makes sense also because the school department, the school committee doesn't have to do, they're all at large.
Right.
You have, I believe, isn't the water commissioners, they're all at large, aren't they, or do they?
Yes,
Correct.
They are. So, I mean, we're the only ones who do it by districts, and now that we are all voting at one polling place, it gets a little bit more confusing to explain to, especially newcomers, are you District 1 or are you District 2? Because before we used to be able to ask,
Sure.
you'd vote at MTM or do you vote at LES?
So you
And then-
clearly knew your audience.
Right, and now people just don't even know where they're at. So,
And that was my question for clarification is, I would be receptive to the June timeframe because it doesn't actually delay the point. Yes, we don't hit the target audience because it's actually sailed for that narrow window, but it also doesn't screw the next candidates that are actually up for re-election
Right.
at that same timeframe. What does that mean to somebody when you you still would go through one more cycle of election at wards before that decision is even final? That's my concern.
could we actually just get do the findings of what actually needs to be done, if this needs to be done at the state level and how that process works? Because there may be some timeframes that we have no control over.
Sure.
But if we can actually at least get the process and look at the opportunities, then as a council, we can make a decision how we move forward.
Timing, right. That's what I'm hearing. Is it coming down to timing?
At the municipal level, though, we don't have to wait for the state. We can
Right.
act on this. So I think that I'm in favor of the June timeframe as well, because big picture stuff, we have plenty of time to put this out there to the public in information sessions before the June timeframe. And I realize that voter turnout in June is a lot different than voter turnout in November, but I don't think this is a controversial issue. I think it's more a common sense issue.
right.
So whether or not we have 1/3 of the population that we normally get in a November election, I think ultimately those that don't show up can probably get on board with this still.
They want to know the
And I don't
difference.
think it's up to us to decide when, who should handle what,
Yep.
That's what the question is, and it goes out to the voters, it's not, let's
Right.
wait till there's more.
Right.
So nobody opposed to be able to proceed with this? Tyler, you'll come back to us with future, the intent here would be a
think-
future action item before that window closes for June if we need to act.
Do you
I
need an
think
action
we-
tonight on the order of 218-202, Twyla? Do you need to make a motion?
I think that we just want permission to ask council, the attorneys, to draw up and prepare the paperwork and give us the timeframes that we need to meet in order to put it on a June ballot, if that's okay with you, and then you can decide.
I make a motion what she just said.
I'll second.
I was hoping you would. And I heard Cassie as my second. All in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Twyla.
Next.
Order 2018-203, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of bonds up to $294,000 for the Route 125 Houston Street to Urban Compact Line and the MDO2 project. This is your first reading. A roll call vote is required.
Anything that we haven't already heard? No. What I would ask was all three of these items, do we have a one-page presentation for what? Can I get those electronically?
You can, yes.
I think the challenge would be education for the local initiatives, and I would have all of those be received.
No, we do, we have actually it's not on one page, it's on 2 pages, but it's.
But it's why does it matter?
It does. We framed it about the same way as we did the sewer
It-
referendum last year, so it came out really well, and we're getting a price now so that we can do a mass mailing, just like we did last year.
And make a motion so we have further discussion.
Please. I need a second to that.
I'll second.
One of the things I think is really important now to educate the public is this is actually for the joint venture between the town of Lisbon and DOT to actually redo 125, which is from 196 out to the urban compact zone, which is just before Gould Road, between Summer and Gould, in that zone anyways. I think it's very important for people to understand is this is actually a small portion of the project that we're actually responsible for. And if we vote it down, we are still responsible for a large piece of this project. So whether we get the road redone or we don't get the road redone, we still got to pay our part. So it's either we pay several $100,000 and get a new road that costs tens of millions, or we actually vote it down and pay several $100,000 for a project that didn't happen because we actually have to pay for all the engineering and all the work the state's been doing over the last 4 years. So it's not do we pay for something or not do we pay for something, is do we pay for something and get the project, or pay for something that actually is just a project that won't happen. So I think it's going to be important that we educate people that it's going to be a cost regardless. The question is whether or not we the rest
Get
of the
something
package
for
with
that
it.
at the end of the day.
Either way, we're footing the bill.
Either way, we're going to be paying this out. It's just, you know what I mean, the state's not going to take no for an answer. They just take it. So.
It's like looking at your menu, placing an order, not getting the food, and then getting the bill.
There you go.
We'd rather get the food and pay the bill, right?
Yeah.
Easy enough.
In the memo to public, does it also state that we are taking action steps and have been through the budget process to set our piece of this locally aside?
We have a funding mechanism in that, yeah.
Yeah, so it is stated in that regard. So
There's-
it is going before the voters because it passes the straight face test that it's above the $250,000 threshold. Our piece of that may not have to go out to bond. It's just the last resort, but we can't enter a contract without voter approval.
So basically, you're saying it may not be a direct impact to the budget as far
Correct.
as the
It is
tax.
not a direct line, but absolutely.
Yeah,
This is just 203 and 204 we're talking about right now, right?
correct.
Correct.
Good. Just want to make sure.
Any other questions on this item?
So this motion is to.
Roll call.
This motion is to adopt the ordinance authorizing.
I need a
bond
motion.
294.
We already made the
I
motion.
think we made the
second.
motions. We're
Yeah.
just
Hey, you
looking for the
get-
roll call now.
It's
All right.
right, sir.
The
You
roll
great.
Is this for 203 and 204? Or is this
No, we
section?
do.
To do them separate.
Separate.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Okay. So Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor Crawford,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Brunel,
Yes.
and Counselor Colby.
Yes.
Okay, 7-0, order passed.
Next, Toil.
Ordinance 2018-204, the ordinance authorizing the issuance of the bonds up to $430,000 for the Route 125, Route 196 to Houston Street MTOT project. First
Make a
reading,
motion.
roll call vote.
I got my motion.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Same discussion as the first discussion.
Right. Roll call, Twyla.
Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
Counselor Brunel,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Crawford.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, order passed.
Next, Twyla.
Ordinance 2018-205, the ordinance authorizing the issuance of bonds up to $675,000 for the purchase of a pumper fire truck. First reading, roll call vote required.
Motion for discussion?
Second.
Please. Okay, we got first and second.
This was brought to us at the last, 2 meetings ago, actually, and there was a pretty good definition of why the fire truck needed to be replaced, and mainly just because it's old. I guess you can wrap that up, right? And it's pretty some. Again, this is going to be another discussion that, I think there'll be more dialogue as we go through. I think it's really up to the community to actually hear the discussion why. And, and I think we're going to have to, prove that case. And as most people this year with the taxes coming out and a lot of other factors coming on to the, asking for money, I think it's going to have to, we have to do our due diligence to prove that this is necessary and it's long-term thinking, not short-term thinking, which I think is crucial, so.
Yes.
I am of the mind that if we're going to look at that number, I would like to know how much we have in the capital reserve for this right now that we're willing to apply to that number. Because that's the full cost of the truck. Mine, and it doesn't have any of the capital funds applied to it.
Right.
My
The
understanding.
way that I would answer that question is that that's the amount of the ask that actually has to potentially go back out to the voters, because that's what the contract we would be entering in. Again, there is that piece, but to Counselor's point is we need to make that decision once we have the voter approval in play, what we would use for that purpose. I don't know if there's been any discussion on that. Has
Very
there?
much the same as the road piece that you talked about, just because we're going to need that bond that amount doesn't mean that we gotta pay for it.
Well, I guess that's the clarity I want to put out there. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
We're going ahead, sorry, there's more.
Oh, okay, so, oh, gotcha. So, to go to that point then, we're going out to the voters to say, this is what it would cost for the truck. However, is that going to be clarified in that ask of the voters to say that we do have monies in the capital funds? And that, I think it'd be better to have an idea of what we're willing to apply, so that can be part of that question for
Discussion.
vote.
I
Yeah,
think that's going to be a crucial point, because if they see that figure, they're just going to,
yeah.
you know, a lot of people may just be like, nope.
Diane's nodding her head down here. She can at least tell us what's in that account right now.
I can't wait.
She will, is what I'm saying.
We'll see it in an email.
We will see what's available in that account. Okay?
And include this year's appropriation as well.
Now,
Do you have any idea? I don't want to interrupt you. Do you have any idea what's in that cap? I don't want to throw you out on the plate like that, but.
we just
I can't
did.
give you the exact number, but I can give you a round figure.
That's
of
okay.
around 240, 250, somewhere in that ballpark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But it is crucial that you don't drain that account, so you have other maintenance repair.
Yeah, I don't think any one of us is thinking about let's dump the full 240 on this, because I know we have other trucks with other maintenance schedule. But I think it's important to say we should offset, and what we can do is determine what is feasible, and still leave enough money there for future projects.
One of the other key sound bites that I would offer in this is I've seen two different versions of the same communication that I was asking Diane for why this actually needs to happen. I know Chief has done that. It's in a couple of different formats. The key pieces on that I would identify: independent appraisal for what's wrong with the vehicle, life, and the fact that making a decision in November would put it before us for consideration first the next year, to be able to go out to bid, to be able to figure out what that process is. Once that process actually comes down to an award, you're looking for a year. So if this goes out in the spring of 2019, you're looking at spring of 2020 before this item even arrives. That key piece there is that it affords us the discussion, to Councilor Albert's point about financing, is to have those discussions of what we're going to go out for bonding, to be able to budget for these things and be able to do it. But we are looking at something 2 years out for something that's actually on the ballot for this November.
May I also?
Please.
Chief, just so everybody knows, we actually have a capital plan for the fire trucks. I mean, actually, there's been a committee that's been working for years, actually laying out what we have for equipment and when they ought to be replaced. And this piece of equipment was stated to be replaced when?
This coming budget was the original plan for 2019.
So this isn't something new that's shot up on us. This has actually been something that's been in the work since the plan began,
Right,
well over
2003.
So it is just actually following suit with what a plan was originally developed for.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Anything else, Chief? We have first, we have the second. Roll call.
Counselor Ward.
Yes.
Counselor Lunt.
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle.
Yes.
Counselor Brunel.
Yes.
Counselor Crawford.
Yes.
Counselor Colby.
Yes.
And Counselor Albert.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed.
Next, Twyla.
Order 2018-206, the authorization for payment for the marijuana consulting fees.
I requested that this item actually be put on the agenda after last week's, what the heck did we have? Workshop. Thank you. The brain is smoked after this bipolar meeting we've had tonight. I'm sorry.
Late in the day.
You have the information here. I think she's a great resource, and I agree with the recommendation.
And make a motion for discussion.
Please.
Is this for,
Second.
We have the, yes, now you get your question. Go ahead.
is this for like a one-time consultation? Or is this for,
The 125 is for the one-time consultation, and moving forward, we may need to use her again when we get ready to, if we have any other workshops because of the new marijuana legislation. She really is a great resource. We may not need her again, but in case we do, I want to get an agreement in place with the scope of services and a contract amount, an hourly amount, so that we know in advance that what it's going to cost. This 125 was an hourly rate.
Any chance we can negotiate a flat fee?
We may, and and you can put this contingent upon the agreement being in place. So we really wouldn't pay her anything until we had an agreement in place. That's what my suggestion would be tonight, is not to just authorize the payment, have it contingent on the agreement for the scope of services and a negotiated flat fee or hourly rate.
I want to be careful then. I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You're saying not paying her if we don't get her to go into a contract?
Yeah, I think what we need to do is have an agreement in place.
So she's already provided the service, though. We want to pay her for that. That's what I'm understanding.
She's provided 1 hour of service to the community at this point.
Right.
Yes, she has.
The motion is basically just to authorize the payment for the consulting fees, which actually is that one time, which I would, I'd only assume that the town manager, as anybody that's doing consulting and working for the town, is following the proper procedures where they are, have the proper tax identification and everything.
We need to get all of that straightened out.
Right.
And part of that is the idea of an agreement, and whether or not it was a one-time or multi-use, I would actually leave it up to the town manager to be able to negotiate the best price that we can do. It's always actually, but unfortunately, some people do consulting, start charging when they leave their home, not so much when they're here. So it's one of those things where I think it is important. We may never need the opportunity, but I did watch the video. I was not able to be at the workshop, but it was good information, very easily understood. It wasn't complicated. So, like I said, that's why I made the motion and for discussion, because I think it's done and gone, but we just got to make sure that we're doing our proper steps to actually pay her legally, and then let Diane work from there to figure it out. Anything that I would need to understand of any decision you would make to have some type of contract would have to come back before council anyways before it can be approved, right?
Unless you want to authorize me to do that. Either way,
Is it necessary for us to actually be under contract to actually make that payment? I mean, is that one of the stipulations?
No, you don't have to be, but we do have to get some paperwork from her in order to make that payment through accounts payable.
I mean, it's really up to the rest of the council, but I feel that we do actually need to authorize payment for the consultant fees we've already attained, and then if it's feasible, that we can actually get something in writing before next time. And typically the process is to have this approved prior in writing. This is kind of a unique circumstance.
Right. So would you rather not have an agreement or just?
I mean, I guess that'd be up to the rest of the council, but.
I having sat through that presentation last week, the fact is I thought she was a great resource for us. I think the idea to be able to get somebody with legal specifics on a topic rather than always having to rely on legal counsel I think it's another avenue to be able to pursue. Mark, I see you nodding down there. I'd like you to actually weigh in, and Counselor as well, those that were actually here.
Yeah, no, I think she was a good resource, and I definitely think we should, if we need her in the future, it'd be good to have an agreement in place. I think we did, I think we do owe her the money that, we agreed to pay, or it was, agreed to pay to her by someone, so I think we need to pay it and, move on.
Counselor Crawford?
I like it.
Move on?
Pay her and move on.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Pay her and move on.
Pay her and move on. All right. Any other discussion?
Is there any requirements? I mean, just asking the question is if we do go for, if we come on the contract for a source like this, is there a requirement underneath our ordinance as far as for going out to bid or anything like that, or is that not the case? The dollar amounts under where would be a concern? Okay.
I think this is kind of a unique topic, so I don't think you're going to find many consultants out there who do this.
I'm sure there'll be more unique things we'll be talking about over the next.
Right.
From what I'm hearing here, it sounds to me like we just want to be able to review this prior to retaining services. Am I hearing that right?
I have a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next, Twyla.
Other business, council committee reports.
School?
Nothing new to report at this time.
Planning Board met Thursday after the, what was it again?
Assessment Review Board.
Workshop. Case 2018-10 for Kelly Park subdivision and 11 for Kieran Transport, their design, relocating to the other side of the street. And other business, downtown streetscape project. I'm sorry, that was a mouthful and a half, was it not? I am done with that for tonight. Let's moving right on. Water Department, we have the information. We'll move forward. LDC.
I was not able to go to the quick last meeting they had. I know they are still working on trying to put together something for the town as far as the Graziano Square, just some informational as far as for visual to look at and to get some feedback from. But with the information tonight that Tracy brought forward as far as on the public hearing for the downtown grant, and that's still all exciting stuff where there's plenty of stuff to work through. So like as I say every time, if anybody's interested in moving forward to the community, feel free to be participating in this group. And if there's any questions, contact anybody. We'll make sure you actually get hooked up.
Thank you. Conservation, their meeting has actually been postponed until next month. They're planning to start trying to work on viability for solar farms locally. I also put the bug in their ear to, if they're looking for projects of that scope, to consider viability of a composting program to be able to take the tipping fees out of our solid waste facility. It seems to be a great placeholder for that committee to at least come up with something. Recreation.
The Lisbon Senior Group left this morning for a 10-day trip to the Grand Canyon, and we got the new bus.
I see
The
that.
new used bus.
New to us bus.
Yes, the new to us bus. I actually saw it the other day. It's pretty cool.
County budget started last Wednesday. Mark and I were in attendance. We've actually got 13 out of 14 positions filled. Starting point on that is a 5.19% increase over last year. County commissioners, if you saw the soundbite in the paper, they cut $500 off the budget and presented it to the budget committee. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic because it went over like a fart in church. So
$500, that was it?
that was the grand total. Yeah.
5.1%.
Okay. Yes, we're moving right along. Library.
Nothing new to report.
Well said. Town manager.
Just to go back to the LDC, they did have a discussion on how to spend the remaining funds that was allotted for the facade grant for some benches downtown. So they want us to move ahead and get 4 trash receptacles to match the benches. So we're getting quotes on that. And if there's anything left over, we'll go back to the LDC and see what else they want us to purchase. Maybe some more benches for up in the Lisbon end of town. That's all I have.
Perfect. Department head written reports. Question I have is the carpet installation. I see there's a little bit of a storage and a painting component that the Friends of the Library are actually doing. Are we expecting to still stay underneath the amount that we allotted from the fund balance allocation?
Yes, because the rest is coming out of the buildings budget.
Perfect. Next, Twyla.
We have no appointments. It would be councilor communications.
Tracy, out and about. Why don't you bring us up to speed? I saw that, so you can speak to it because you're still sitting here.
I should be home in bed. Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. I did put together, that's better, a notice doing out and about. It's part of kind of our goals in communicating with the business folks. We did one in the downtown area and talked about the projects going on in that area with folks. And so this time we're going to be up this end of town in the Furniture Superstore is going to be the host. I've sent out the invitation to all of the businesses that I have it's on my list, and again, if you come across, also send it to PCL so they can forward it to folks. And it's really going to be that it's an opportunity for the business to come in after hours. It will be 5 to 7, and we'll have Chief Leclerc there to talk about with the fire truck. So really what we're going to do is kind of promote and educate in regards to the upcoming bonds that are going before folks. We'll be discussing the sewer project, the downtown grant in the village area as well, and fire, I said the fire truck, and roads, construction, and that, basically that sort of thing. So speakers will be, like I said, Chief Hagan will be there, Chief Leclerc, Tom will be there for Public Works. We'll have Steve Avioli for the sewer department. I'll be there, and Diane will be there. So if you'd like to come, we're going to do some refreshments, probably have some coffee or whatever. But it was just really kind of getting the word out and making that connection with the businesses. A lot of the businesses, from what I've seen, you know, they are small businesses. They don't have the opportunity to kind of connect on the way of like chambers. We don't have a chamber or a business association. You know, PCL does have their monthly meeting as well. But again, it's getting out. If one person shop, they don't have the time to kind of leave their business when they're done at the end of the day. They want to go home, which I understand. So we're hoping with it being with the bond issues that we'll get a good crowd.
Thank you.
That's a great idea. May I just add one thing to that? Is it, because more information the better, is it possible for Chief for you to do a open house down the fire station some night and actually do like a public assessment or public information? And, you know, just actually at the firehouse itself, the fire truck there. I mean, it just, the more information we have, the better. And I think that is a great opportunity as far as for the business and for, that's actually kind of expanding on a lot of information that night. I think there's a one night concentrating on the fire truck bond too by itself may actually be a good idea for people to come in and take a walk around the truck and look at the other equipment. Just sometimes being there and actually have that information. Again, I'm not sure how you'd put that together, but I guess the point is it will be our due diligence, because if we go and it gets voted down, we're going to wish we did a lot more. You know what I mean?
And I can work with you, Nate, on that. That's fine. I think that makes perfect sense of doing some sort of public outreach where they can kind of come and ask questions and, again, look at the truck, as you said. I apologize. I didn't give you a date. Wednesday, October 10th.
Thank you.
So at the Furniture Superstore.
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Yeah, I did say 5 earlier in the place, but thank you.
Yes.
Jim,
Hey, before you, go ahead.
He just wanted to know the time of the day.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Norm.
I just want to back up for a second, because department heads, I meant to ask you a question about the report that I read. In the update, you said that the Moxie committee got together and the wrap-up. The going forward, in the next report, maybe even sooner, just get an update on how the merger between the rec department and, you know, how that transition's working.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
That will be in September's report.
Excellent.
So, because we kind of do like a month behind.
That's okay.
As a follow-up question to that, my question is my understanding is the next Moxie meeting is Thursday night, 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Is there an agenda out on that, and where do we stand on what we're actually looking for and those kinds of communications, or is that one of the items that is going to be on the agenda?
Well, it's the first time kind of pulling everybody together in that regard. It's going kind of through the schedule of things. I'm hoping that Mark will be able to attend, and it's really just starting the groundwork as far as on, you know, what we need to lay out and moving forward as far as our first meeting, getting together, getting the group. We have some new people that have stepped up, so it's really the first meeting is the opportunity to kind of get the committee back together, and then it's looking at where we need to fill in holes. And I did have a couple councilors reach out, so I'm hoping that, you know, they'll be there as well and try to fill in some of those holes. So that we can kind of look at setting things. I guess, you know, in moving forward, it might be a little bit more timeline on what council is looking for us to kind of do within that time. We've got directions as far as in kind of moving forward and trying to work together, but how is this all going to take place? I mean,
Sure.
I've got to,
Well,
we haven't gotten to that point. I mean, I have a timeline and I need to work within that timeline, otherwise things are going to get behind.
Well, so, and on that line, because I know we had that workshop in reference to this and developed the timeline, understood who plays what role and when and why. I think that since this is the first time you're getting together, clear goal development as to ownership and rec department ownership in your office
Sure.
To meet that timeline. But I think it's time to talk about developing those goals, so we're not sitting here in January, like we mentioned, and saying, well, we can't do it this year because.
Right.
Well, we're here in September, let's develop those goals and start looking at that timeline that was mapped out and saying, how are we going to do this? What I mean, because Mark said in that workshop very clearly, I have all the time in the world right now to give,
Right.
all the way through until May.
Right.
But what I don't have is, not even May, I think it was April. But
April.
it's May, June, and July where he's off the rails with all the rec department stuff. So I just want us to make sure that we're eyes on the prize with the making the transition.
Yeah. And again, I think some more clarity in having, some of the councils there at this meeting to kind of help, put that into two directions, because again, it come down to Mark was saying, and of course Mark's not here this evening, that he has time now. But when you look at my timeline, time now is just a few hours each month. And the critical part comes on the back side of that once we get into and cross over into the new year. And how are things going to be divided up?
Yep, well, I
And
think,
with that
You
being
know,
said,
I don't know.
I'll just add my 2 cents.
Please.
Whether people take it or not. I mean, myself, I don't think that ought to be addressed at that first meeting. I
No.
think that ought to be determined well before going into that meeting. And I don't think it's councils that ought to be directing that. I think it actually really falls upon Diane, Mark, and Tracy to actually come up with a plan to make that work. Again, that's my own opinion, because as a counselor, I'm not going to actually give an opinion on something that I really don't know as much about as the people involved. So as I do appreciate the idea of as councils being involved, which I think it needs to be, and there's no question about it, in the past it has to be. But I think that I think it would be an injustice for you to get to that meeting and just, with your worst thing you can do with the committee you have is actually make them feel that there's
A new sheriff?
well, not even that, just lack of
Yeah.
direction.
Right.
But again, that's something I think that really needs to be actually worked out through the administration prior to being leveled out in the committee. But again, that's my own opinion.
I absolutely agree with you, Fern, there. I think the council's, what we're tasked with is offering direction. From there, that's something that Diane and the department heads get together and say, this is what the council's tasked us with, how are we going to make that happen?
Well, I think doing the timeline, certainly had helped in that regard. And again, with having the first meeting, and I agree with you in that I have been kept the committee informed as far as in the process and what's going on. And again, as we kind of look through, but it's kind of addressing the timeline. One of the biggest things that we'll do is reintroduce and especially in welcoming those new members and getting them comfortable, and then begin the process. I mean, the first thing that we'll do at this meeting is we'll look at the theme is one of the biggest things. I need people to help me out with the craft show at the which is next month, and we participated in that at the high school. So we usually take leftover merchandise or whatever, and again, this kind of started our marketing pieces and stuff, and then starting right in, with the sponsorships. So yes, it is going to be right, and it's going to be, Diane sitting at the table with Mark and I saying, okay, who's going to be able to take on this role? But at the end, it's still going to come down to that critical piece
Committee, volunteers.
of the volunteers, but not only that, as we get into closer into the festival time and
Finding the resources.
Well, that's the crux of the issue right
exactly,
there. We're sitting
exactly.
here
Right now, we're good. I mean,
Right.
it's just that that critical point, that critical time is when the help is really needed.
My whole goal would be the idea is making sure your committee, as limited as they are, that they focus on the goal and you keep them upbeat and moving forward to actually help,
And
not
they are.
drag them
They're
down
good.
in the administrative
Nope.
part of the decision, which actually could take over a meeting pretty easily,
No, and they, and they've been good. But again, I've had some that have been part of it for quite some time, and they're burnt out, and they haven't had the help. And this is, I just can't do it. You know, they have other commitments and responsibilities. I get it. You know, they're moms. They work. You know, a full-time job. They take care of things in the house. So it's not easy.
No, I'm sure it'll happen. So when's the meeting again, so everybody hears?
The first meeting for the Moxie Festival is the 20th.
Thursday.
Is this Thursday at 6.
Here,
Remember.
6, it's here, yes.
6 o'clock here.
6 o'clock here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council communications?
I'd like to bring something up about the moratorium that was set in place for more information. We had a workshop last Thursday where I believe everybody from the planning board and the town council got more information. I think that the moratorium needs to be repealed, and we need to vote for an opt-in and opt-out soon.
I'll add my piece of that too, if you like. I'm not sure how much communication you want, but actually, thank you for the tech communication we have. So if council is not available now, you actually can stay home with the weekend and actually review the meeting 2 or 3 times, and public too. So if anybody didn't actually see that workshop, feel free to go on the website, and it's set right there, so you go look. I definitely got a lot of clarity after coming out of that. I actually thought this opt-in, opt-in was actually a big factor, but after I left that, I feel that opt-in, opt-out is not even something that we need to be discussing, because it's actually medical and adult. The recreational adult, I guess there's a lot of different terminology I got out of that. But listening to the person came in explaining the idea that they don't even have the guidelines or the way of monitoring it, or a lot of the details won't even be out to next year. I don't think it's actually any process of ours to actually opt into something that we don't know what's going to be opting into. I know the planning board was actually, asked to actually get some guidance on the opt-in and opting out, but going
recreational end.
On the recreational end. And so, again, coming out of that workshop, watching it, I don't really see any purpose for us to opt in at all. One of my concerns of opting in was the idea that if we opt in and 6 months after opting in, it's not working really well, what's the recourse of actually opting out? And it sounds like once a business is established, there's no opting out. So I would actually encourage, if we are going to actually do the medical, to actually, I'm not sure if I'm ready to actually lift it today. I'd like the planning board to actually just make sure that they're well established and know the process they need to go through, and hear that from them. But we actually go through, once it's lifted and we're allowed to happen, the places that actually are looking to actually establish, as long as there's strict guidelines for that, we can actually play that out a year or 2, and if that all plays out good, then we can maybe opt in if everything looks good on the retail front. And if a year in there's a lot of troubles, we'll be some glad we didn't opt in and we just actually not even think about it. So the medical has already been established. There's already placed. One of the things that's always been a concern of mine is actually we've seen played out last year where there's actually grows in residential areas where bad things happen. And the fire department actually had to address that already last year, one on School Street that actually was in an apartment building. One of the things I heard her say, which actually to me actually made a lot of sense, is that it's not longer going to be a secret. The state actually knows where all these are because they need to be approved, and that our local code enforcer can actually go with the state once a year to actually look at the facilities and make sure that they're actually doing the proper stuff. Whether you're using chemicals and putting them down the drains, or proper usage or safety. I've never seen that component in this. I'm glad she brought that up, because I didn't know as a community we even had to write at one point in time, even know where they are. So that will allow us the opportunity to actually, if someone calls and says, hey, look, there's something happened next door, we should be able to look at a list, and it's either approved or not. If it's not approved, then we actually take action to deal with it, which that's good. To me, I didn't feel we even had that opportunity after listening to her. So, again, I guess
When we're talking about this moratorium, the moratorium was strictly about medicinal storefronts.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've had a discussion with the planning board. They were actually at the workshop, and they basically, with code enforcement, it is already on our books.
Yep.
So it's not something that we have to discuss any longer. They discussed it for years.
I
It's
think
already on the books.
one of the things I have a concern about, which it's not even a big concern, but it's one of those things where I would like to make sure. And I'll use Freeport for example. This may not even be incorrect because we use it a lot in planning board, right? We don't want to be a Freeport, but then on the other hand, we want to actually make sure that we can control what's around us, right? When you look at McDonald's in Freeport, it doesn't look like McDonald's, right? It actually fit into the environment. I would like to make sure that the planning board has the tools, so when they actually do have a storefront, that it isn't it's actually a clean looking, controllable storefront that most professional people would do without a doubt. But unless we have the guidance there to actually make sure that works, there's always one bad one come through, and all I can see is, flashing sign, glass pipes, the unique signs showing leaves out front. You know what I mean? Not just stuff that to me would actually draw attention to our town if someone drives through. Say, oh my God, look what Lisbon, what they happen to do. So I mean, I'm not sure what, and it maybe it's conditional use anywhere in the state and anywhere in the town. So the planning board maybe say we already got those tools already. But I would just want to make sure that when it comes forward, not picking on one individual to say, or two individuals, that this is what you need to do. It needs to be consistent all the way across the board. So when someone drives by, they're not saying Lisbon did a bad choice. And again, as Chris, any business, whether it's a used cars or tractor sales or someone selling anything out front, lawn sales, could be anything going on. It's either done right or it's not, and how we control that, I think, is really important. And I guess I would have to lean out to the planning board, and this may not be the proper place to, with the conditional part of that, is do you have the tools to actually make those conditionals to be whatever they need to be and consistent, I guess.
One of the things that we left it with the planning board at that workshop was the fact that they felt confident in a short period of time to be able to address land use chart and fraction out things that actually needed to be done for the recreational or adult use piece for the 4 different categories that are now introduced in a short period of time to be able to address the moratorium. Was that at all in what you got into, or when was the discussion going to happen for that?
Because we didn't have the benefit of the planner on Thursday, we decided that have Dennis tell us where he thinks we're missing on the land use chart, where we're missing out on putting either the medicinal storefronts or the adult use storefronts.
This moratorium is about storefront medicinal, which are already on our books. Correct.
It's
Am I
on the
correct?
land use chart.
Already on the land use chart.
That wasn't even the next question. So if we don't opt in.
I don't want anybody to continue to talk about recreation, because we are not talking about recreational or adult use of marijuana products. We are talking about medicinal storefront.
But those other 4
caregivers.
categories are strictly for recreational. That's
Right.
not medical.
We're not talking about them again. We're bearing off the line here. We're trying to repeal the moratorium to open back up medicinal storefronts that are already on the land use chart that they've been going over for years, to have that repealed so that real business people in the town of Lisbon, where the slogan is Lisbon, great place to do business, are allowing taxpayers and business people to run businesses.
The other point that was actually brought out in the workshop is that we might want to be able to consider we have the ability to consider licensing above this to be able to address the specifics of one business, not the entire basket underneath that land use chart.
There's a few other questions I have, nothing that actually can't be discussed pretty easily. And that was one of the things with the storefront. On the medical part of it, if someone's actually running a storefront, if we run a daycare in this community, you're going to show all the licenses and all the guidelines, and I'm sure that would be the same requirements.
Same idea for caregivers in the state. Everybody, even though you're not getting the paperwork here, it's all done through the state. And anybody that's going to open a storefront as a medicinal caregiver has already been through the state and had all the paperwork signed and dotted.
But even for a daycare, that state
We're not talking
information.
about daycares now. We're talking about.
But I'm just saying that all that state licensing needs to be brought forward to the community, the town, when they come in for that permit. So that's the only thing I'm saying.
This has got to be raised so people can talk about it. If you don't raise this moratorium or repeal this moratorium, then nobody can talk about it.
Well, we can talk all we want.
Right, nothing will happen. There'll be no change.
We can actually talk and make sure that we actually understand. The biggest thing is actually just encouraging or making sure the other councils feel comfortable enough with it to actually repeal it.
Can we just make it an agenda item and discuss it then?
Yep.
I would be more than happy to actually discuss it as a.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
That's
And again,
straw poll to be able to say that that's the case. The fact is, we need.
Yeah.
You got 4-piece straw polls, so put it on a future agenda item.
Exactly.
Yep.
And we
I
still
think-
have an executive session to get through.
And I think that was your initial point, Chris, is to try to get this thing motivated and move forward.
Rolling.
Yeah. So I think next agenda, it's great place for it. I just want to thank Frank.
Next community.
'cause
Sorry.
When you
please.
talked about leaves, I thought about a big, big leaf in neon, and I couldn't get out of my head for a while. I just exactly it. As soon as you brought it up, I was
Well,
like,
other communities
that's-
do actually have it that you can't use a leaf as actually an insignia of the business. So, I mean, there's certain things that the planning board actually can have as a tools, and I just want to make sure they have those tools in place.
Right.
Yep.
You can have anything you want on your sign, but because somebody is a business caregiver, they can't have a pot leaf on their sign. Now you're splitting hairs.
Yeah, well,
Again,
I'm not
can we
saying that's
discuss
the case.
this as an agenda item?
Yeah.
All right, any other communications? Next item, Twyla.
Audience participation response for new item.
Anybody wishing to express anything to the council that's not on the agenda for tonight?
Good evening, Tom Martin, Public Works Director. I'm just going to quick update on recycling. As you know, with all the tariffs that are happening and just everything going on in the media, we just received a notice this week that recycling single stream is going up from $30 a ton to $113 a ton, which you probably all can imagine
Awesome.
we don't have in our budget. I've got a bunch of calls out waiting for a call back just to see what our options are. AvCog is pulling together 2 different forums that we're going to attend because everybody's in the same boat. One of the options is putting it in the waste stream, which we pay $43 a ton for, but as you can imagine, that's not palatable to the state people. But I'm not sure where we lie, so I'll have more for the October 2nd.
Didn't we actually have a long-term contract? Was that
No,
not
ran
even
out
applicable?
evidently, so
This
It ran
is
out?
directly related to tariffs.
I would guess it is.
I'm just
Because
curious
China
to see
just
how-
stopped taking recyclables.
$100 increase from what we've been paying,
Yeah.
directly related to tariffs that were levied by the federal government.
Welcome to America.
No, it's good. Good to know.
Well, it might drive some American companies to start a recycling company, you know what I mean?
When it hits, if you control the trash and the water in this world, you will be the person that comes out ahead. We're learning this, folks.
Yep. Traffic lights are this close on Main Street and 196, so hopefully they'll finish up striping tonight. They're still waiting on a change order to grind the old marks off the east side of that intersection and restripe that for us. The new lights are up. They got some signs to hang, but as soon as I have them, I'm hoping within the week that's a working intersection for us.
So when are the tariffs going to affect? When are the price increase, I should say?
He says in the next 30 days.
Within the next 30 days?
What's
So,
that? Is
so
there-
Pine trees.
Lisbon's official stance is we have no single stream recycling. We have nothing but trash. At a $60 a ton savings in the short term.
Yes, yeah.
You heard it here first.
It was based on tonnage.
And
It is
yes.
the Boy Scout in me is cool with this until they get their act in order because it's actually a budgetary concern that has just been thrown at us.
They do have, like I said, they have a forum here in the next week, so hopefully we'll be able to hear some more as to.
We're a small player,
How-
Western Auburn, other big places, I can't imagine they're sitting
They're
down.
all the same, yeah, they're all in the same boat, so really it's going to boil down to how hard they can hold our feet to the fire for the recycling side of it.
Right.
There's going to be a break point somewhere along the line at the federal level. There's got to be. So hopefully we'll see.
Number-wise, I mean, you're just throwing out per ton, but if this was actually to happen for a whole budget season, what's the dollar amount we're looking at? I mean, do you have that calculation at all?
I don't.
It's $100 a ton. How many ton would do a month? Any idea? A week or
even a yearly
It's like
number?
400,000 at the current rates.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, we're already in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's 400,000 at the current rate.
This isn't a $30,000 or $40,000 difference. This is a several
oh my
hundreds of
God, I
thousands.
just threw up in my
yeah.
lunch kind of situation.
Yeah, this is actually.
Can we get
no,
around?
yeah.
Can we get a rough idea? I mean, not.
Oh, yeah,
tonight.
no, I will.
Yeah.
I'll have that for
Send
October
that
2nd.
email
I should
out,
have
yeah.
some options.
So basically, we're going to trade a fire truck for getting rid of our trash.
We have no.
Honestly, it's sad to think that, but I mean. it's the
Chief's
same
glad he
ball
came to the
value,
meeting.
right? So, yeah.
If your house catches on fire, let's build a garbage mountain.
Right.
Well, hey, we gotta ask permission to spend $250,000 to buy anything, but we don't have to go get permission to spend $700,000
To pay the bills.
Trash.
To pay the bills.
You know what I mean? It's just, it's kinda like buying health insurance or anything else, you know?
Just-
Not right. It's not, yeah.
Keep that old girl, that old tanker in shape, because you're gonna have to come put out the dumpster fire that's gonna be out over here.
How much room we still have at a landfill in Lisbon, anything?
Anybody else there that has anything?
Anybody else?
What happened to 2018-200?
I
Dun,
like
dun,
that.
dun.
That passed.
School department cabinet reserve
We did it
playground, that we did it in the
early
beginning
on.
because we were still waiting for some Sabatis council to show up.
We did Mr. Willetta solid. We got him out 10 minutes after he got here.
Playground was approved.
You get the full ask,
Yeah.
Full ask.
28. But I was hoping maybe we could,
Thank you for the quote.
Ray Schlobeck, BHP, EdTech 3, Gartley Street Day Treatment Program. Just curious.
92 Jordan Road tonight, though. 92
yeah.
Jordan Road.
You got
No.
the 28,895.
but if we could raise a crew and get them together and we could save a little bit of cash, I'd be down with that, and I'll certainly get on the crew. The same crew that did.
You've done it before,
Right,
haven't you?
right.
I was gonna say we can get the same crew that did the MTM. We
I
did
can't
that.
say
in,
I can't
half a
say we're
day.
skilled help.
Hey,
I'll
If there's
volunteer,
en-
but I don't know how much.
if there's
help
enough
I'd
of
be.
us, some people got to dig holes, dude.
Exactly. Stay in school, kids. Next, Twyla.
The executive session, order 2018-207 to go into executive session for one
Make the motion.
MRSA, section 405.
We'll be coming back for a
6C.
vote.
No.
Acquisition
Class
or
dismissed. Thank you
disposition
all.
of
You
real
need a
estate,
second.
economic development.
Yeah.
Oh, I got that right there. First, second. All in
All
favor?
favor.
Take a 2-minute,
Zero?
please.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Executive. Holy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you're all good.
Shoot it at.
Kicked all day long. It's all good.
Hey, thanks for coming in and showing some concern about the Gartley School program.